Are Chopin Prelude number 4. I'm using the Mikuli edition. I'm going to turn this off. Don't need that. So this is the Mikuli edition. Looks something like this. It's usually Schirmer is edited by Mikuli, which is a rather good edition for Chopin. If you're using Paderewski or Ekier, those are also very good editions. And we're going to look at this Chopin Prelude number 4. So here we go. There's a lot of things to talk about. I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about rubato because there's obviously room for tons of rubato in this piece. And the question is kind of, what do we do with it, you know? And what's a kind of rubato that we can do that's going to make sense? And what's a kind of rubato that we should try to avoid, you know? And then we can talk a little bit about voicing because there's different things that we're going to want to bring out in this piece. So, we have these chords in the left hand, and every now and then there's a little change, so you might want to mark the change a little bit if you can. For example, the E going down to E flat. Try to show the E flat, and then the F is going down to F natural. So this piece is, you know, it's not such a difficult Chopin piece. I think it's one of the most accessible pieces as a beginner for Chopin. It's, you know, it's not, it might be a good piece to start with if you haven't played Chopin. But then some of these things might be a little bit difficult to do if you're a beginner. You know, to bring out this, just that one note. That's a little harder to do. We need to make that fifth finger a little longer and bring out that note. Then you have the E flat goes down to D here. And then the A to G sharp. So we just try to show those things a little bit, you know. The ones that change in the thumb are probably the easiest to mark and stick out a little bit. So hi to everyone who's joined this stream. We're looking at Chopin Prelude number 4 live. Let's practice. Another thing you might want to consider is, here's for rubato. This is maybe a personal thing, but personally I don't like to start this in tempo. 1, 2, or 4, 1, 2, but rather something more like this. So see, what we did is we took time in the beginning. Not only on the pickup bar, but as we start here, we're taking time there as well, right? Now I just want to see, I want to make sure that I can connect to the chat here. So, because I don't see anything, but I think just nobody's writing anything yet. So, the first bar, let's say after the pickup bar, you're going to take a little time here as well. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then go, you know, go with it. So that's kind of nice, you know, as you can hear, you know, if you like that sort of thing. Now here's something that I've seen a lot after teaching this a few times, is that people will do the same rubato everywhere. So, for example, maybe if you're playing this, it might sound a little like this. See, it seems like it's a nice idea, and it could be nice at some moments, but let's try not to do the same rubato everywhere. Hellion Preston, hi. Have you had experience with historic Errold or Pleyel pianos? A little bit with Pleyel. Errold, I haven't, but the Pleyel pianos are very different, and it's one of the things that we'll find, especially with like pedal that Chopin writes, these pedal markings that are sometimes strange. it's just very different on a Play-O piano. It doesn't actually sustain the sound for a long time, you know. And then going back to the other video that I just did, you know, if you're playing this prelude in this edition, there's only pedal written in a couple of specific places. That does not by any means mean that you do not put pedal in the rest of the piece. You need to put pedal here to kind of build up this resonance. This should be really obvious. So I'm hoping this is really obvious. Now let's look at something here we can do. This is an idea now. If you're going towards the first beat, so you use this as a pickup going here, 2, 3, and the pickup going to here, so kind of slight crescendo here. This is just an idea. It's actually hard to talk about this piece because every time I play it, it's completely different. So I'm like trying to collect my ideas, you know, but there's some things that I like to do pretty much every time I do it. And that's at the end of the second line, you know, if we're doing this, Ti-dum, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So what we did is that since we were doing those ti-da, ti-da in crescendos, then this place at the end of the second line where you have ti-da-da for the first time, something different, we can make a little more of a point of this B. We're doing it the opposite now. We're doing it in D crescendo, more on the fourth beat. Si, la, la. It just makes sense to me to do it that way. And in addition to that, if you're kind of flowing a little bit before, not doing too much rubato, so something like 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can start to take a little time in this bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then go 3, 4. Now show this one. And I like to do that little appoggiatura on the beat. I just don't think it sounds very nice to go, not sure. But maybe that's personal, you know? It could be, you know, it really could. Personally, I like it because we're kind of going back up to that B like we've had before, si, la, and we've also had, you know, la, si, re, do, mi, la, fa, and then again, la, fa, and now finally, si, la, sol, fa. So that just shows it a little different. Hi, Xana. Hi, Adam. Tips on Ocean Etude. That would be fun. Yeah, that's a tough one. We could do that in another video. Favorite prelude? I think my favorite one actually would have to be, you know, number 13, and I would love to do a video on that one as well. So let's go on in this. You know, here you have this sort of accent on the C. So this bar is really flexible. You can stretch a lot of things. You can play it a little bit. Should sound kind of like it's being improvised when you play this bar. Sol, fa, do, si. And then try to reach up to this interval like it's really far and then go here. Again, that's one of many ways that you might play it. You know, you might go da dee da dum pum. That also works. As long as you feel those last three notes as a triplet, they should be felt as a triplet, and hopefully we as a listener can understand that they're a triplet. We kind of want that, you know. Ti, da, 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 one and one. So another way of doing that, the first way that I just did, would be to stretch this all the way, since it's the biggest interval, up to the D. But once you get to the D and D, C, D, you just go so that it really feels more like a triplet there. T, da, da, 1, 2, 3. So now here's the idea. The most common rubato to find in this piece is the one I just did, that you would hear 2, 3, 4, 1. So if you just did it there, don't do it the next bar, or at least not, especially not 3 bars in a row. So you have T, so then just go with it. 3, 4, 1. Here is, well, he writes stretto. Stretto actually means that we should go a little bit faster. Each beat kind of like getting more and more condensed. It's not really what I did. So you can do that, accelerate a little bit there if you so desire. But what's really important is in the next bar that you feel the climax on the second beat. When you get up to this C up here, the highest note, I believe it is the highest note that we have in this melody. So, and this, we don't want a fast kind of trill like that. We want something more. We want to kind of sing, use those ornamental notes not as kind of like a decoration around the melodic notes, but as part of the melody. That's something that Chopin is doing a lot. And try to feel this part of the ornamentation. We've got a major sixth here. So that makes it more expressive, you know? So we don't have, but rather, and it makes it a little bit more, it has a bit of a speaking quality to it, you know? Which is nice, it's appropriate for this part of the piece. If you've listened to recordings of this piece, you've probably heard all sorts of things. Everyone plays this differently. You know, some people even add an octave here. Play it 1 octave lower. That's something you can do. So after this, what are we talking about? This second beat here, and then here you have this beautiful chord. So we want to show that a little bit. You know, go into the richness and the fullness of that chord. I can't help but roll that chord every time I get to it. Maybe it's just a bad habit. Now we have to calm down here. Again, I like this one on the beat. 2, 3, 4, 1. Cadence rompue, surprise cadence. 5, 6. So we're going to try to, you know, he wrote a little crescendo there. That's kind of nice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Could do just a little bit more there without getting too loud, you know, because we have to relax this all the way to the end. Show the B flat here. Smorzando means it's dying down, getting slower. And also showing again in the thumb, the G sharp here, really slow down here, dying down. Now see, that wasn't voiced very well. What I'm missing here is those two notes. So the B flat in the bass is also important. 2, 3, 4, 3, and then you can wait. You know, we have this pause. Now here's maybe one of the hardest parts of the piece, is getting these pianissimo chords. Try to do it. I'm going to try to do it without that pedal. And what really helps is to tighten these abdominal muscles here, so that you're less relaxed kind of in the gut, so you have less weight going into the instrument. When you tighten the abdominal muscles, that helps you lengthen the spine and feel more weightless. So what happens is, these really quiet things, like these chords, you know, like, you can actually go like very precisely into the chord without getting too much sound, because that's a real challenge here. And the other thing we want to do is to voice it a little bit, not just F sharp is really nice here with the second finger. So if you make the second finger a little longer, feel that it's a little more, well, really to lengthen the finger, you know, so you can put a bit more weight into it. And I find the E, that's one octave lower with the thumb, just as nice to have come out than this one here. Hi, doped deer, do the work. So just going to bring those notes out a little bit, and then the F that's going to be here, that fifth. Really have to work on that sound. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm using the left pedal here, which you should, you know. But if you really want to practice it, don't use that pedal, and see how soft you can do it. Again, tighten the abdominal muscles so you feel like you're more, you know, as people always say, like hanging by a thread, and they always do that with your hair. So it's kind of a nice feeling. You feel like you're weightless. And then even better, we can talk a while about these chords, is if you can connect the place where you're sitting from to attack the chord, so that it's not so much with the arms, but the movement is starting more from where you're sitting. So that's really the sweet spot, and it takes a micro movement to get this chord, to get the sound. You know, because of course if my hands are here, and you know I'm rocking on my sits bones, I don't need to go very far to play, right? Just a little. So it's in a way like you're rocking forward without letting this come down. This is staying straight, the spine is staying straight. So that sounds pretty good. Here's another thing I find really helpful. This was from my teacher in Vienna, Kuyumjan. He would say, like, kind of going a little bit in this way. And I find that kind of, it's a good way to apply the speed on these really soft chords, especially while you're trying to voice things that are more in the middle. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you can see what it looks like, but it looks like you play like this. Kind of like that. So, and then of course the last chord, which if we can get that even softer than the antepenul, whatever that word is, antepenultian chord, the second last one should be a little louder than the very last one. So I think that just about covers it, you know. Key tips for a piece like this: sometimes hard to get the right feel of dynamics. Yeah, for sure. It's not so obvious, you know, the dynamics in rubato. And the hardest thing is to learn to play softly, you know. And then even if we talk a little bit about the aesthetic of this piece, I mean, it's one of the more introverted kind of recollected preludes, as opposed to, you know, these, you know, number one even, you the one before it, you know, which is very fast. So even, you know, again, like I know there's some recordings where people go, but that's really intense, you know, that's really a lot. And it doesn't really go with the style of thing. So you can be creative and jam it up and try to do interesting things, but probably the style here is something more like some kind of interior angst, you know. He did, in fact, only write forte there. Hi, Jesus, Matias. Nice to see you guys. Hola from Spain. Great. Do you think it helps practicing pianissimo passages loud at first? Like big weight and then you feel light? Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all because it's really hard to practice pianissimo in general. Same with fortissimo. You don't have to always practice fortissimo passages loud. For example, in this piece, you might practice this sometimes just to get the right notes. You don't have to be playing it forte all the time. It's a very good idea to play those pianissimo passages just normally. So if you have those chords, you're trying to learn the notes, just play them normally. You know, and that can apply for any passage. Definitely, just as long as you know what you're doing, you know that you're kind of altering it momentarily to do something different, you know. Same with number 7. Yeah, good. Yeah, we're going to look at number 7 as well. We're going to do a couple of videos on the preludes. Just lately, I've been teaching them to quite a few students, especially the easier ones. So those are the ones I like to look at, mostly in part because they're the only ones I've ever really learned, actually. Actually, I never really learned any of them except for number 13, which is one of my favorite ones. Another one I love is number 9. That one's so beautiful. But 13 is actually incredibly difficult. So we're gonna do video on number 1, number 4 we just did. We're gonna do number 6 for sure. This one. It's a really beautiful one. Number 7 as well. A couple of tricky things in there, especially that chord. And I think we might do maybe number 9, but to be honest, I better look at it a little bit because I don't know it so well. So number 9 possibly, and also there's another one that's not so bad. Number 13, definitely going to do one. That's definitely for more advanced pianists. Number 15, why not? You know, we could do number 15. Just, you know, all the popular ones. Number 17 is really nice. Again, that's another one I would have to look at a little bit before. And number 20, you know, number 20 is another one of those. This one here. Actually, that's a great one for connecting your body to the instrument. So 24, yeah, I don't know about 24, maybe, possibly. That one's a little, again, it's one that I would have to look at a little bit because I honestly don't know it at all. So that's it, folks. Those are the ones coming up. Hi, Fausto. And thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is kind of a new thing, you know. Usually film the Let's Practice videos and publish them later. So I just thought today, I'm kind of wondering what to do with the live videos. You know, if we keep doing Q&As. And this just seemed like a good idea to talk about these things live, you know. Of course, I understand the best thing would be to actually announce them ahead of time so people who are actually learning these pieces can tune in. And I do apologize for not doing that. I understand I could be a heck of a lot more organized with this. But that's how it looks, you know. And the beginning of this video is also backwards, so hopefully they'll let me edit that part out. That's how it is. That's just how it is. So Chopin Prelude number 4. Next time maybe we'll have number 1. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Take care. Happy practicing when you come to my masterclass. We're going to look at them all.